Is that figure would include people who are not on trolleys. That would include people who are on day wards and surgical day wards. The nurses can't include people who aren't on trolleys. But leaving aside statistics, which isn't really the point of this at all, there are still a very large number of people on trolleys. A huge amount of work has been done since there was a peak just after the new year. Since then, over 1,000 transition beds, home care packages and fair deal nursing home places have been provided, but it still hasn't been enough. And we're dealing with two particular things now. Really a big increase in the number of elderly people in particular coming into hospital who do need admission, and then the fact that we have the flu in a number of hospitals now, which has required beds that otherwise would be open to be closed. So I had a good meeting with the hospital managers this morning. About 50 of them were in the department. We discussed additional measures that we can take over the next couple of weeks to reduce overcrowding in our emergency departments, but it is very difficult, but we are doing everything that we can, and we're going to do that.
Can you tell us about these additional measures?
Yeah, there's a couple of different things. There's about 175 additional beds to be opened over the next couple of weeks, certainly before the end of the month. They're mainly community beds. We're also going to have, or the HSE is going to have, an advertising campaign on the radio encouraging people to use the minor injury units in particular, because to a certain extent overcrowding in EDs can be alleviated if people use the minor injury units rather than the emergency departments in the big hospitals if they have a minor injury. There's a lot of them now around the country and they're not used to the full extent. And then of course another thing that we need to consider is making the fair deal demand-led, because even though we've got the waiting list for the fair deal down from about 18 weeks to 11 weeks, there are still quite a number of older people who are effectively trapped in hospitals because we can't fund nursing home care for them, and that's not something that I can stand over for very much longer.
Minister, Tony O'Brien on that point made the point that the number of delayed discharges is only continuing to increase. Is it time to plug more money in, because the 25 million you did allocate is obviously not working?
Well, the number of day discharges has actually gone down. It peaked at about 850 and it's down to about 720 or 730 now, but it's still very high. You'll always have a certain number of delayed discharges. People need time to check out the nursing home, see if they want to go there, they want their relatives to go there. There's always issues around wards of court and so on, but it's a good bit higher than it was this time last year. That on its own though won't solve the problem in the health service. If you deal with one issue, another one pops up, and one thing we'd have to consider, particularly when it comes to the fair deal, is that if we don't make more funding available for home care packages, you could create a very perverse situation whereby it's easier to get into a nursing home than to go home. So we have to make sure that any additional funding also went into home care, because most older people and young chronically ill people would prefer to go home rather than into a nursing home. So I don't think you can do one without the other.
Does fair deal need to be revisited in the sense that it was designed at a time when property prices were much larger, the percentage of income coming was much higher? That's obviously all changed now. Does that whole issue need to be revisited?
Well, there is a review of the fair deal, and I haven't seen it yet, but it'll certainly be on Minister Lynch's desk in the next couple of weeks, and it'll look at a number of those different issues. But I think the ongoing problem of overcrowding is a little bit more urgent than that.
When you say you want the scheme to be demand-led, are you saying you want the budget cap to be removed? And if so, are you going to go to the fellow members of Cabinet to see if they'll agree to that?
No, I would like to see the budget cap removed. Essentially, nursing home places in Ireland are rationed, and there is a waiting list that has come down, but it's still 11 weeks, which is far too high, and that is one of the factors, by no means the only factor, contributing to overcrowding in our EDs. We have overcrowding in hospitals that don't have a problem with delayed discharges, by the way, and then we have other hospitals where there are no nursing home spaces free in their catchment area anyway, so there's a lot of factors going on here. What I'd intend to do in the first instance is to try to find any additional resources from within our existing budget. We're only 6 weeks into the year. We certainly haven't run out of money yet, and I think it would be premature to be looking for additional funding at this stage, but perhaps we can free up some funding within the health fund.